For decades, it feels like the fight against climate change has been stuck, right? It's all political promises on one side and messy legal battles on the other. But what if there's a third way? Today, we're going to dive into a landmarked court opinion that's carving out a whole new path for climate justice, one that's built on cooperation, not confrontation.
Okay, let's start with a number that really defines our era: 1.1 degrees Celsius. I mean, this isn't just some abstract statistic you see in a headline. It's the reality of rising seas, killer heat waves, and a planet that is very clearly under a lot of strain.
And with every single fraction of a degree that ticks up, it's not just the ice caps that are eroding. It's our trust in leaders and institutions to actually do something about this. And this growing crisis of trust is exactly what set the stage for a new kind of challenge.
So, think about it. When governments don't act, where do people turn? Well, more and more, they're turning to the courts. So let's take a look at how decades of legal history led us to this really pivotal moment.
This didn't just happen overnight. The legal groundwork actually started way back in 1938 with a simple but super powerful idea: preventing transboundary harm. Basically, your pollution shouldn't cause serious damage to your neighbors. And that principle kept evolving until, fast forward to March 2023, the UN General Assembly takes this huge step. They go to the world's highest court and ask a very direct question: what are a country's legal obligations when it comes to climate change? And the court's answer in July of 2025, it sent absolute shockwaves through international law. In a unanimous decision, everyone agreed. It completely reframed what it means for a country to be responsible in the age of climate change. And the language they used here is just incredibly powerful. The court said that inaction, like letting new fossil fuel projects go ahead, isn't just a political oopsie. It could actually be a breach of international law, a breach that demands not just stopping the harm, but making full reparations for the damage already done. And the court got really specific. It laid out 4 core obligations for every single nation. 1, you have to actively prevent significant harm to the climate. 2, you must protect fundamental human rights from climate impacts. 3, you have to provide reparations for the damage you've caused. And 4, you got to cooperate with other nations in good faith. This is huge because it directly connects climate policy to human rights law. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but it's an advisory opinion, right? It's not legally binding like a verdict. And you're right, it's not. But because it was unanimous, it carries this immense moral and persuasive authority. It basically sets a new global standard for how climate disputes are going to be seen from here on out. So, with this new legal standard in place, every nation knows it could be held accountable. And that creates some serious leverage, not just for more lawsuits, but for a much more constructive approach: mediation. And mediation isn't some one-size-fits-all thing. It can be totally tailored to the situation. It could be a direct negotiation between a big emitter and a vulnerable island nation, a wider regional dialogue, or even a formal agreement with its own enforcement triggers built right in. But hold on, with an issue this big, why would countries choose to mediate instead of just fighting it out in court for a definitive win? Well, the answer really lies in the unique advantages mediation has for a problem as ridiculously complex as climate change. Okay, here's the core difference. Think of litigation like a boxing match. It's adversarial, it creates a winner and a loser, and it can just wreck diplomatic relationships. Mediation, on the other hand, is cooperative. It happens behind closed doors, which lets leaders focus on finding shared interests and building creative solutions together. Let's drill down into 3 key strengths here. First, flexibility. The solutions can be so much more than just writing a check. We're talking about things like transferring green technology, or even forgiving a nation's debt if they agree to protect their rainforests, a debt for climate swap. Second, it gives leaders political space to negotiate without the public spectacle of a courtroom. And third, it lets scientific experts get right in there, making sure the solutions are based on solid data. So we've got the legal backing from the ICJ, and we've got the right tool with mediation. But what's it going to actually take to make this work in the messy reality of international politics? All right, let's be real for a second. This is not going to be easy. Pinpointing exactly who's responsible for what climate damage is scientifically really hard. The massive power imbalances between countries can totally skew negotiations. And of course, there are real fears about enforcement and national sovereignty. To get past these hurdles, you need a solid game plan.
A successful mediation has to follow a clear process. You start with a clear goal, you bring in scientists from both sides to agree on the facts, you design creative solutions, and, this is crucial, you build in a tough system to monitor and verify that promises are actually being kept.
So, who actually leads these talks? Well, the beauty of this approach is how flexible it is. Leadership can come from the top, like the UN, or from regional groups, like the African Union, who really get the local context. You can even have independent panels of experts for the really tricky cases.
Ultimately, this opinion from the ICJ has completely supercharged the potential for mediation. It's not the soft option anymore. It's a frontline tool for turning these big legal principles into real, tangible, and just climate action.
So, the legal foundation is there. The diplomatic tools are ready. The only barrier left is political will. The question now isn't if we can act, but if we will choose to. Can we actually bring nations to the table to build the kind of cooperative future our planet so desperately needs? Honestly, the answer to that question is going to define what comes next for all of us.